It was a crisp Thursday morning in late October when the letter arrived, slipped under the door of my third-floor walk-up in Portland, Oregon. The envelope was plain, unassuming, with no return address, but the weight of it felt heavier than it should have. Clara Hensley, a 29-year-old graphic designer who'd been freelancing for the past 5 years, tore it open while my toast burned in the kitchen. My eyes scanned the first line, and the world tilted. Notice of default, $687,000 loan in arrears, Clara Hensley listed as co-signer. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the threadbare rug, the smell of charred bread filling the air. I didn't have a loan. I didn't even have a credit card balance over $500. But the numbers stared back at me, cold and unyielding, tied to my name, my social security number, my birth date. My hand shook as I dialed the number at the bottom of the page, a lender called Pacific Trust Financial. The woman on the line was brisk, her voice clipped as she confirmed the details. The loan was taken out 4 years ago, ma'am, for a commercial property in Seattle. You're listed as the co-signer alongside your brother, Nathan Hensley. Nathan. My older brother, the golden child who'd always had a knack for turning charm into chaos. My stomach churned as the woman continued, explaining missed payments, accrued interest, and a lien now threatening my credit. I hung up, the room spinning, and pressed my forehead against the cool window pane, watching rain streak down the glass. 4 years ago, Nathan had been talking about his big break, a bar he wanted to open in Seattle, a dream he'd pitched at every family gathering while I nodded politely from the sidelines. I'd been the quiet one, the steady one, the one who didn't need the spotlight. My parents adored Nathan's ambition, his wild ideas, even when they crashed and burned. I'd always been the safety net, the one they called when Nathan needed bailing out of his latest mess. But this? This was a betrayal I couldn't fathom. I spent the next hour pacing my tiny apartment, the letter crumpled in my fist. My mind raced through memories I'd buried deep, Nathan showing up at my door with a bottle of cheap whiskey after his first business failed, asking for a loan I couldn't afford to give, my mother's voice on the phone, Clara, he's your brother, family sticks together, my father's gruff insistence that I stop being so selfish when I hesitated to help. I'd always given in, writing checks, covering overdrafts, because that's what family did. But co-signing a $687,000 loan? I'd never agreed to that. I'd never even seen the paperwork. The realization hit like a freight train, they'd forged my signature. My own family had tied me to a sinking ship without a word. I sank onto the couch, the springs creaking under me, and stared at the ceiling, where a water stain had been growing for months. I wanted to scream, to call Nathan and demand answers, but something colder took root instead, a quiet, burning resolve. I wouldn't let them see me break. Not yet. I needed proof, a plan, a way to claw my way out of this nightmare they'd built for me. The next morning, I woke at dawn, my eyes gritty from a night of fitful sleep. I brewed a pot of black coffee, the bitter taste grounding me as I opened my laptop. I requested a copy of the loan documents from Pacific Trust, my fingers trembling as I typed the email. While I waited, I dug through a box of old papers in my closet, tax returns, bank statements, anything that might show I hadn't been involved. The email from the lender arrived just before noon, a PDF attachment that felt like a ticking bomb. I opened it, and there it was, my name, my information, and a signature that wasn't mine. It was close, eerily close, but the loops on the C were too sharp, the H too angular. I knew my own handwriting like the back of my hand. This was a fraud, a carefully crafted lie. My chest tightened as I scrolled through the pages, each one a brick in the wall of betrayal my family had built. The loan had been for Nathan's bar, Hensley's Haven, a place I'd never even visited. He'd defaulted within a year, and now the debt was mine to bear. I spent the afternoon at a local library, the smell of old books and dust a strange comfort as I researched my options. Identity theft. Fraudulent co-signing. Legal recourse. The words blurred together, but one thing became clear, I needed to act fast, before the lien destroyed my credit and my future. I printed out articles, highlighted key phrases, and scribbled notes in the margins of a yellow legal pad. By evening, I'd found a lawyer, a woman named Rachel Kwan, who specialized in financial fraud. Her office was a 20-minute bus ride away, and I booked an appointment for the next day. As I walked home through the drizzle, the city lights reflecting off wet pavement, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. Nathan had always been the reckless one, the one who took without giving back, but this time, he'd gone too far. And my parents, they must have known. They must have helped him. The thought made my throat burn, but I swallowed it down. I'd deal with them soon enough. The meeting with Rachel Kwan was a lifeline. Her office was small but tidy, with a view of the Willamette River through a narrow window. She was in her late 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that put me at ease. I handed her the loan documents, my credit report, and a timeline I'd written out the night before. She flipped through the pages, her expression unreadable, then looked up at me. "This is identity theft, Clara. Plain and simple. Your family committed a crime." The words landed like a stone in my stomach, heavy but not unexpected. She outlined the steps: file a police report, dispute the loan with the lender, freeze my credit, and prepare for a potential lawsuit. "It'll get messy," she warned, "especially since it's family." I nodded, my jaw tight. "I don't have a family anymore," I said, and the truth of it settled into my bones. That evening, I stood in my kitchen, the rain tapping against the window like a metronome. I hadn't spoken to Nathan or my parents since the letter arrived, but I knew I couldn't avoid them forever. My mother had texted earlier that day, a breezy message about a family barbecue on Saturday. "Hope you can make it, sweetie," she'd written, as if she hadn't helped ruin my life. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "I'll be there." I needed to see their faces, to gauge their reactions when I confronted them. I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran. As I chopped vegetables for a late dinner, my knife moving with a rhythm that matched the storm inside me, I thought about every time I'd been the good daughter. Every time I'd stayed silent while Nathan took center stage. Every time my parents had brushed off my accomplishments, a design award, a steady client list, while fawning over Nathan's half-baked dreams. I'd always thought family meant sacrifice, but now I saw it for what it was, a one-way street where I gave, and they took. Saturday arrived with a gray sky and a chill that seeped into my bones. I drove to my parents' house in the suburbs, a modest ranch-style home where I'd grown up. The driveway was already full: Nathan's pickup truck, my parents' sedan, even my aunt's minivan. I parked on the street, my heart pounding as I walked up the path. The smell of grilled burgers hit me as I stepped inside, and for a moment, I was 12 again, running through the house with Nathan, laughing over nothing. But that memory soured as I saw him now, standing by the grill in the backyard, a beer in his hand, laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. My mother was fussing over a tray of potato salad, her smile bright and oblivious. My father sat in a lawn chair, scrolling on his phone, his face lined with the same exhaustion I'd seen for years. None of them noticed me at first, and I stood in the doorway, watching them, feeling like a ghost in my own life. I waited until after the meal, when the plates were cleared and the conversation had settled into a lazy hum. Nathan was telling a story about a fishing trip, his voice loud and animated, while my mother hung on his every word. I cleared my throat, and the sound cut through the chatter like a blade. "I got a letter this week," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "From Pacific Trust Financial. About a $687,000 loan in my name." The backyard went silent, the only sound the faint hiss of the grill cooling down. Nathan froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. My mother's smile vanished, replaced by a flicker of panic. My father looked up, his brow furrowing, but he didn't speak. I kept going, my words measured, each one a stone dropped into still water. "I didn't co-sign any loan. But my name's on it. My signature. For your bar, Nathan." I turned to him, meeting his gaze. "Care to explain?" Nathan's face flushed, and he set his beer down with a clink. "Clara, look, it's not what you think," he started, his voice too smooth, too rehearsed. My mother jumped in, her hands fluttering like nervous birds. "Sweetie, we just needed a little help. Nathan's credit wasn't great, and you've always been so responsible. I cut her off, my voice sharp now. Responsible? You forged my signature. You tied me to a debt I can't pay. Do you have any idea what that's done to me? My father finally spoke, his tone gruff. We didn't think it'd come to this. Nathan said he'd handle it. Nathan shot him a glare, then turned back to me, his charm replaced by defensiveness. It's not like you're paying it, Clara. It's just on paper. Why are you making a big deal out of this? I stared at him, the brother I'd once idolized, and felt something inside me snap, not with anger, but with clarity. They didn't see what they'd done as wrong. They saw me as a tool, a means to an end. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood up, brushing grass off my jeans, and looked at each of them in turn. I filed a police report, I said, my voice low but firm. I'm disputing the loan. And if I have to sue you, I will. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Clara, you can't do this to us. We're your family. I smiled, a small, bitter smile. Family doesn't steal from family. I turned and walked back to my car, their voices rising behind me, Nathan shouting, my mother pleading, my father muttering something I didn't catch. I didn't look back. As I drove away, the rain started again, heavier now, drumming against the windshield. I felt hollow, but not broken. For the first time, I felt free. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal meetings and paperwork. Rachel Kwan was a bulldog, guiding me through the process with a fierce determination that matched my own. I filed the police report, my voice steady as I recounted the betrayal to a sympathetic officer. I sent a formal dispute to Pacific Trust, attaching the report and a notarized affidavit denying the signature. My credit was frozen, a small shield against further damage. Nathan called once, leaving a voicemail I didn't listen to. My parents sent texts, alternating between guilt trips and accusations, but I didn't respond. I blocked their numbers, a small act of rebellion that felt like carving out a piece of myself I'd never given away before. I started spending more time at a local coffee shop, a cozy place with mismatched furniture and the smell of fresh espresso. It became my sanctuary, a place to work on my design projects and rebuild my life. One afternoon, as I sketched a logo for a new client, a woman at the next table struck up a conversation. Her name was Elise, a photographer with a laugh that made the room brighter. We talked for hours, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of something new, connection, hope, a future that wasn't tied to the past. Elise became a friend, then more, her presence a reminder that family could be chosen, not inherited. The legal battle stretched on, but the tide turned in my favor. Pacific Trust removed my name from the loan after a 3-month investigation, though Nathan's name stayed, and the property, his failed bar, was seized to cover part of the debt. I heard through a mutual friend that he'd moved back in with our parents, his dreams of grandeur replaced by bitterness. My mother sent a letter, handwritten, apologizing in the vague, self-serving way she always had. I read it once, then burned it in the sink, watching the flames curl the edges of the paper. I didn't need her words. I needed to move forward. By spring, I'd saved enough to move into a new apartment, a small loft with a view of the city skyline. I painted the walls a soft sage green, hung my artwork, and bought a new rug, one that didn't hold the ghosts of betrayal. Elise helped me move in, her laughter echoing through the empty space as we unpacked boxes. That night, we sat on the balcony, sharing a bottle of wine as the city lights twinkled below. I told her about Nathan, about the loan, about the family I'd left behind. She listened, her hand warm in mine, and when I finished, she squeezed my fingers. You're stronger than they'll ever know, she said. I smiled, a real smile this time, and leaned my head on her shoulder. The weight of the past was still there, but it was lighter now, a shadow I could live with. I thought about Nathan sometimes, about the brother he'd been before greed and entitlement twisted him. I thought about my parents, about the love I'd once thought was unconditional. But those thoughts no longer held power over me. I'd built something new, something mine, a life where I wasn't the safety net, the scapegoat, the invisible daughter. I was Clara Hensley, the woman who'd walked through fire and come out the other side, not unscathed, but whole. And as the first blooms of spring unfurled outside my window, I knew one thing for certain: I owed them nothing, not my anger, not my forgiveness, not my silence. I owed myself everything, and I was finally ready to claim it.